Jackie. All right, so it's my pleasure now to welcome up to stage Andre Prassinos. Hopefully I said that right. I probably didn't again. Let's make sure that's on. There we go. Test that.
No.
Okay. All right, and you've got something to live brew. All right, so Andre, you're with BioBrew, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you want to give us a little bit of background, your background, where you're from, what you do.
I was born in Nevada and raised in Colorado. I ended up in Southern California for about 10 years, where I ended up owning a real estate asset management company. Thank you. And it was in Southern California that I met my wife-to-be, a Canadian English nanny, who told me that if we were going to be together, it would be in New Zealand. She was hot.
And here you are.
And obedience is the best practice if you're going to be in a long-term relationship. And so, yeah, we've been here since 1998.
Right, cool. Okay, and so give us just a brief overview of what you are so we can put things in quick context. What is BioBrew, just briefly, and then we'll go deeper into that.
BioBrew makes fresh probiotics, so live, active products that have got the microbes in them that you're paying for when you go and buy them in the store, and the bugs are swimming in their own metabolites, and together that's a truly effective microbial tool that does things that freeze-dried stuff just doesn't.
Okay, cool, and we'll get into that in a little bit more. I just wanted to get an idea of where we're going to. Okay, so how did you start on this journey? And often that will be coming across a problem or stumbling, like Nigel did, stumbling across something, or was it something that you had a passion for before, or how did you get into this project?
Necessity is the mother of invention. My wife and I were doing quite well in real estate, happily living a lifestyle that we hope one day to afford again, and the GFC hit. And the formerly friendly bankers quickly cut our throat, and we lost everything. I mean, we were busted. So my wife decided, since we were both at loose ends, that she would go and take a organic horticulture course at Lincoln University, where the organic college had just started taking in students again. And it was there that we met Don Pearson, my business partner now, who was splitting his time between a small organic vegetable farm and instructing at Lincoln. And I ended up helping Don, because I had nothing else to do and had no real marketable skills. Being self-employed is a trap. Over a period of about 6 or 7 months, as we worked down the rows, and I'll now pay $100 for a broccoli because I never want to garden again. We hand-weeded mile after mile of organic veggies, and I listened to Don explain to me his take on things biological. And he had worked in agricultural fermentations before, and he had an idea for what a genuine microbial tool would look like, something that was really effective. And it sounded like a business to me. So using the last credit card that we had, we put a bid on that for a production prototype, and it worked.
So let me get this straight. You did some weeding and basically got a college education out of that. That's effectively how that works.
Maybe a junior college.
This is how you get that opportunity thing we were talking about before, you know? You put yourself in the right place. No, that's great. That's great. So you said, right, we'll make a business out of this. You plonk the credit card down. What did that business look like to you at that point? What was your vision of that then? Because I'm sure it's changed since, and we'll get to that in a sec.
We just had a high level of confidence that what we were making was a better way to present a microbial tool to somebody to fix a problem. And we began selling our products to the dairy sector. We had no retail channels. Nobody would give us the time of day. And so all of the product that we sold, we hand delivered ourselves straight to the farm gate. We picked up the empties, cleaned them, and did it again.
I'm going to interrupt now. for the farm sector, was that for animals?
That's right. Yeah, we began.
Sorry.
Forgive me. We began with animal nutrition. The regulatory bar is a little bit lower for animal nutrition products, as you might imagine, compared to human, and so we began targeting the dairy sector.
Okay. Now you said something just before that. The way you present this innovation is the way you're presenting that to the body. So do you want to break that down a little bit more? So the problem is currently, or what's currently available isn't being presented to the body in the best way. So if you can address that and why that you believe that is the case, and then why you think your solution is better.
Well, everybody's read and seen plenty of stuff out there in the pop media about how important the gut biome is. We hear about how it's connected up to everything from our emotions to our immune system. Everything in the body interconnects with gut and the trillions of microbes that live in our gut. And we're told how important it is, and we're told that we really need to take care of it and make it somehow work right if we're going to thrive. And many people have got chronic, difficult problems that are connected up to gut function and gut biology, but when you go to the store to buy something that will help you, you're confronted with freeze-dried stuff, or you're confronted with stuff that says probiotic on it but isn't really. It's not a regulated term in New Zealand, so this mic is a probiotic. So people with real problems are trying things that work basically slightly above the threshold of placebo, the scientific work that will have been done on the microbes will be valid. There'll be good research behind them, but then they just take them and freeze dry them, and they call that a finished product. And the analogy that I use is it's no more a finished product any more than a sack of flour is a chocolate cake. You know, you need to take it a few steps further in order to make these microbes do what you want. And that's what we've done.
Okay.
Our products are a blend of microbes that we've isolated ourselves and ones that we've sourced commercially, and our innovation is a fresh product that has a decent shelf life. So it's a commercially practical, fresh product.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to bear with me because you said, we've all read these articles about guts and all that. Assume I haven't. So what are some of the gut issues or things, let's say that again. What are some of the symptoms somebody could be suffering that might be linked to a gut issue?
Just about anything, apart perhaps from physical trauma. They have found very strong links between gut biology and mood disorders, depression. Most of the neurotransmitters, the serotonin, for example, in the body is made and stored in the gut. There's profound neurological interconnectivity in between gut and brain. There are the classic things that you might associate with gut biology, things like IBS, IBD, Crohn's disease, colitis, celiac, those kinds of things. A huge array of immunological issues, the syndromes that people get sort of put into when they can't find another diagnosis, things like chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia. Those are sort of non-specific, difficult, inflammatory, immunological things. Skin problems, if you have a problem on the outside, there's probably one on the inside. You can't really find a system in the body that is not connected up to gut biology one way or the other.
Okay. All right. So that's good. I'm glad you clarified that because that makes it's a whole universe more. Now, the gut is what I have read or what I have heard, probably from you, talking to you actually. The gut is almost a universe unto itself. Like we say this is the human body. There's a heart, it beats the blood around. The lungs come in and out, which brings the air in and out, which oxygenates the blood, which feeds the muscles. That's the body. What's this gut thing? You know what I mean? Like, and we understand most of the other functions of the other organs, but the gut seems a little bit of a black hole, or am I not on the mark?
No, I think you're right. There are more cells in your gut, non-human cells in your gut, than there are cells in your body. And we exist in an evolutionary sense ever since single-celled creatures essentially invented these multicellular things to carry them around. We exist to take care of and feed these microbes inside of us, and in return they perform very essential services for us. Everybody's gut biology is unique. Everybody's gut biology changes over time. Everybody's gut biology is subject to pressures, stress, medication, pollution, preservatives and chemicals in food, etc. And a lot of the chronic problems that exist today are at least in part the result of a disconnect in between people who have stood still in an evolutionary sense and the gut biology, which has moved on. Microbes evolve very quickly, and so as we've changed everything around us, they've shifted quite happily, and we're left trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces.
Right, okay. So given that, as you say, everybody's gut biology is different and it changes over time, and there are all these different external factors. So this gentleman over here might have been in contact with more pollution than me. So his needs will be different from mine. Where does your product, how does that fit in with this wide range of needs?
Well, in due course, we intend to bring more products to the market, more blends of lactobacilli than just BioBrew #1 that you see there, but also other microbial groups. Like there is no fresh bifidobacteria product on the market. Oops, tipped you.
Don't go home and make that.
Or if you do, tell me and we'll commercialize it. So there needs to be a whole pharmacopoeia to really answer that question well. But fortunately, there are some general purpose good guys out there. Lactobacilli are microbes that humans have used for centuries to do things like yogurt and sauerkraut, kimchi, various fermented foods. And lactobacilli have several virtues. They are safe, they don't make us sick, they tend to perform good things for us, they help our gut to work better, and they can be cultured outside of the gut. Most of the bugs in the gut cannot. So they are general purpose good guys that we can use in a product like this, as long as we can figure out how to get a decent shelf life.
Okay. So what would something like, let's have a look at this product here. So this is your first human marketed product, a general market product. And where's this available?
We've got a few stores. We're into the Common Sense organic stores. Those are mostly Wellington. There's one in Auckland. Ceres, the Whole Foods organic store in Auckland. Organic Nation in Hamilton, and also on our website. Our business plan is to develop a bricks and mortar retail network over the next year to sell that product.
Okay. A bricks and mortar network to sell one product.
Well, not our own.
Right, yeah. Distribute it through that. Right, that's right. Okay, so BioBrew 1 daily probiotic. What is this going to do for me? What's in this?
What's the problem? It's a difficult question to answer. Marketing guys want simple, straight, concise answers, and unfortunately,
and interviews.
That's right. That's right. And the problem here is that this is a complex system going into an even more complex system that reacts with yet another complex system. And what complex systems interactions is its own discipline. There's a whole body of mathematics about it. It is a very, very difficult thing to model and predict. And so a problem that you might have could be completely specific to you and yet be helped by this and not have the same effect in somebody else who's presenting with a similar problem. Basically, the greater the stress on the individual, the more likely it is that this product will help. And pretty much whatever the category of problem is, the overwhelming majority of individuals, and we've done this in case study groups and trials in animals, and we're doing case study groups now on everything from autism spectrum disorder to depression to fibromyalgia. What we're seeing is better than 75 to 80% of individuals with almost any problem that you can pick will at least get some benefit out of improving their gut.
Okay, I will say, and I'm not being difficult, that does sound so much like the snake oil end of things? You know what I'm
Well, that's a real
saying?
challenge. When we go to farmers, we get the same problem that we get when we go to doctors, and that is that they know that probiotics don't work because they read all of these articles about how important gut biology is and how probiotics are supposed to change your life, and they go buy one and nothing happens. And so when you come along with something else that says probiotic on it, you've got a whole education piece. This is one of the challenges that we've got to face.
Absolutely.
As an early mover with a different product, you've got to re-educate people about what a probiotic actually can be. But it just shows you how huge the void has been in the area of microbial tools. When a simple product, and this is just a blend of lactobacilli and their metabolites alive and kicking. That's all that it is. Our trick is getting a decent shelf life out of them. And that this product gets such a huge response suggests just how big the disconnect between probiotic research and the market is, and how big the disconnect between ourselves and our gut biology is.
Okay, so if we look back at that video we just saw, it's one of those timing issues where you really don't have a market that is educated enough to jump onto this yet.
Well, I think it's better than it's ever been. I mean, how many people here don't know at least something about gut biology being at least somewhat important? When we started 10 years ago in the agricultural sector, we were struggling to explain what the basic concepts behind our products were. Now you can, in almost any conversation, you can take it as a given and move quickly up to a bit more current day. So the timing's pretty good, but and it is fortunate because we're tiny and we have a zero marketing budget. We're just bringing investment in right now to pay for some conventional sales and marketing for BioBrew. But if the timing had been any better, somebody else probably would have come along.
And that's right. You can't pick your timing, really, and it's unfair of me to say that. So with this product here, if I was to, probably what I'm getting from you is I should just try it and see if anything changes. So what am I doing with this? Is this a certain amount once a day, or what is this?
The recommended dose is 100 mils a day. Most people divide that up into a couple of doses through the day. That's what I do. You can take it straight, but it's more of a tonic than a soft drink. And so if you find, if you ever had cider vinegar, you've tasted some of the organic acids like you would find in here. I tend to put 50 mils into a tall glass and top it up with water so I get hydration and my live brew. And
so 100 mils a day, so that's 10 days worth. Yeah, cool.
And people have been sold probiotics on the idea of try this for 6 months and see what you think. This is not that kind of a product. If you're going to be responsive to it, it will be within a matter of days, a week.
So before you finish that bottle, you'll know.
The overwhelming majority of people who are responsive will be responsive in that time.
Yep. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you've got this product here now. What did you have to go through to get to that? Because I'm going to assume there were a few problems that nobody had solved before, and you had to. So from picking veggies or picking weeds out of the veggie garden to and teaming up with David to this, what was that journey like?
Well, I should say New Zealand's got a superb innovation ecosystem. Callahan Innovation has been incredibly important to us and remains incredibly important to us. And so we began trying to solve the little problems first.
Such as?
Well, we had a production prototype that people would spend money on and then spend money on again. So we had repeat customers. We knew that they were seeing at least enough benefit to keep going with us. And
so true market benefit in terms of that paying cash.
That's right. We had no choice. We began selling this stuff on day one. We had no money. We had to have revenue. There was no choice. So we began driving up tanker tracks, annoying dairy farmers during calving, which is not good.
No, it's not.
But it didn't get shot. Survived that, and actually convinced them that we had something that was important for them right then when they had a bunch of sick calves. And when you come back the next week and the calves didn't die and the place has calmed down a bit, you're well received. But there were regulatory hurdles in order to normalize what we were doing within the New Zealand system. We had to tick a few boxes. Shelf life was probably the biggest thing that we needed to address.
So what was shelf life looking like when you started?
Well, we didn't know. We knew that we had high viability. We knew that it lasted a little while, but we didn't know how far out that went. You know, in the second or third month, we didn't have a year's worth of shelf life data. So we were delivering to farm first weekly and then bi-weekly, and while we were doing that, wondering just what we had. In terms
so
of
you're delivering something, you don't know if they're still wiggling or not.
Well, we knew that they were good up to that point,
yep.
but we had yet to develop enough information to know how far out it went. And so we went to Lincoln University with some money from Callahan and began doing shelf life studies, began doing the work that you do to better understand your product, and in addition to improving the shelf life, we improved the metabolite profile, more abundant organic acids, and we also began working to isolate microbes that we selected according to our own criteria to go along with the ones that we sourced commercially. The result of that, after a few years' work, was a range of retail products, calf brew, equi-brew, pet brew, that are now sold through retail channels in New Zealand, the PGG Wrightsons and Farmlands and that kind of thing. And it laid the foundation for the work that led to BioBrew.
And so you've got a running business with the pet side of it, or animal side of it. So is that the foundation of your business at this point? That's bringing all the revenue in for you to grow the human side of it?
That's right. That's the lifeblood cash flow that we've got right now.
Yeah.
And we were launching calf brew at Field Days. We were the first liquid product that they'd ever let into the innovation tent there because of the preponderance of snake oil, unfortunately. But we convinced them that biotechnology is wet and they needed to get enough judges to see this into the future, and we were the first one that they let in. And around the corner came a guy, Paul, who was a fermentation scientist down at Gracefield, and he said, "This is really interesting." And we began a conversation, and it turned out that he had exactly the set of skills and resources that we need to transfer from the animal nutrition sector into the human health. So we got an amazing grant from Callahan, some of their internal discretionary funding that allowed us to do the food safety work that you do in order to have a product being sold to humans, and then went to the Callahan funded food bowl up near the airport, which is an amazing food and beverage prototyping and early commercialization space, and hit live brew there.
Cool. Okay, excellent. Now, I know some of it, I'm going to steal some of these questions we got asked from the last speaker, so it looks like I'm more intelligent than I am. So, globalization, where are you looking for that?
Well, we're already exporting our horse product to Singapore, the US, Japan. Our pet product just went off to Korea for the first time. So we've gotten our products across borders and through biosecurity, albeit in relatively small amounts, a couple pallets at a time.
Yeah. Does it travel well?
Yeah. You can't cook it. You don't want it in the top container on the ship. You want it in the hold. When we designed our products, we took a look at the regulatory frameworks around the world associated with probiotics, and we pretty much reverse engineered what we did to fit into that space internationally. So we looked at human compliance from day one and built our animal product to fit that and progressed along that same line.
Nice.
Our plan, though, notwithstanding the fact that New Zealand is a small market, it is a quite approachable one, and we intend to validate here and look to do deals in larger markets using either a contract manufacturing or some kind of licensing arrangement.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because it would make sense if they have the manufacturing ability there to license what you've got. and it takes a lot of risk out of it for you.
Yeah, I mean, the most expensive piece of equipment that we use is the bottling line. Fermentation is relatively non-technical. It's big vats where the microbes are doing what they're doing. The bottling, handling, packaging, all of that is the most expensive. That's still mostly water, so it's heavy. So producing it in market and bottling it in market makes a lot of sense. But having said that, we can still do a lot of market validation and early commercialization going into markets from here.
Yeah, and you pretty much have to. Nobody's going to.
The first container loads.
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. Is there anything I've not asked you that I should have asked you?
That's pretty good.
Okay. We're going to open for some questions because I know there are some other questions out there. Stuart, I'll repeat the question.
You've got a complicated product in respect of trying to sell those benefits to customers. So what sort of channels did you use to actually try and get that message across to that, create that activity?
Okay, so the question, well, I'm just going to say this for the audio. So the question was, it's a complicated product. What channels, and you need to educate the customer in terms of this, what channels do you use to do that?
Well, at first we just drove up the farm gate and bothered them. We began.
Was that like a free sample? Just
you're right. The basic method it was and is to this moment give people samples and let the product speak for itself. And in fact, I've got, I think, 15 bottles here. If anybody would like to try some, I would happily let everybody that wants some have a sample, because then you know it. You don't have to listen to me. You can trust your own gut,
so to speak.
There's one.
That's 1-1 for the two speakers. Puns.
Puns. Yeah. All right. I won't go for two. And so when we launched, the first retail product that we launched was BioBrew. And we would give out samples at horse shows, and when people asked us where they could buy it, we would say, well, go down to your local saddlery shop and pester them on our behalf. We'll give you a free bottle if they order. And so we began to develop an independent network of small retailers, mom and pop saddlery shop kind of things. And in due course, people began to annoy their farmlands and their PGG Wrightson guys, so that they actually called us. When we'd call them, they wouldn't give us the time of day, but finally the customers were demanding it enough, they called us. And BioBrew was the way that we got in. And then through those channels, most notably farmlands and PGG, we're still working on Fonterra. We got our calf product and our pet product in there. And so now, even though we have a zero marketing budget and no sales reps to do it, we've got a couple hundred stores around the country that we can work to further develop the rural retail channel. And we're right now repeating that model. This is an evangelical opportunity for me. If you guys want to give it a go, you're going to talk about it if you like it. We give out samples as widely as we can in strategic locations to strategic populations. We've got a conversation going with an elite rugby team that is, their nutritionist is considering bringing it on board, and so we're kind of hopscotching through influencers. While all that is going on, we intend to hire a sales manager shortly that is going to take a very conventional approach to developing relationships with bricks and mortar retailers, so that we can repeat the model that we've done with the annual nutrition, which is show up in store, give out samples, and create repeat customers coming back that way. That model is probably only doable in New Zealand. When you start looking at markets the size of regions in the U.S., it's more brute force marketing in my view, which is why we would want to find somebody to help.
Yeah, and I think that I'm impressed with that. That is true bootstrap marketing, and it's allowing your product to talk for itself, which in your case is probably more important than most other marketed products, because it is so complex, it really has to talk for itself. So that's really good. Another question, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking before you touched on it about the viability for athletes in that space, but actually what I'm thinking, is it child friendly at all?
Yeah, my kids have been drinking our stuff since they were weaned. We've just finished up a mouse trial at Lincoln University that was done in conjunction with the Otago Medical School of Christchurch, and the guy that gave us the mouse model to use is a pediatric gastroenterologist, and his view was that we would use that murine model as justification for him to do clinical trials in his kids. So he's got a lot of kids with Crohn's, a lot of kids with irritable bowel, and the next step will actually, probably our first formal trial in humans is going to be pediatric. It's kind of scary, but we're excited.
Yeah, actually, it was something I thought of before. So this gluten-free thing, because a lot of people are having problems with gluten now, like more than ever in history, like you would hear about it. Is this possibly a gut thing?
Yeah, well, there's two. There are people in gluten. There are people who are actually celiac, that where their body simply cannot handle gluten, and we don't cure celiac, although we can help support around that, because usually a person with celiac will have a bunch of related stuff that can be made better. You're not going to fix their gluten intolerance, but you can make their life better.
Some of the
everywhere
symptoms
else.
can be relieved. Yep.
There's a vastly larger number of people, many of whom think they're gluten intolerant, but they're just sort of industrially produced food intolerant. These days, a lot of the wheat that is harvested is wilted with glyphosate before it's picked up off the ground. And so, we're actually using herbicide to pre-process the stuff instead of using it to kill weeds. And so people that don't tolerate wheat are often intolerant to compounds that are there that were never there before. And we see this a lot. People think they're lactose intolerant, but they're actually sort of intolerant to standardized, homogenized milk that contains monensin residue and other bits and pieces. And when they have a gut biology that is a bit adjusted, and they have access to better milk, non-homogenized organic milk, all of a sudden they can drink it.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, that was just my little question. Have we got another question out there?
So are your probiotics able to get through the hydrochloric acid of the stomach?
Yeah.
So just to repeat that, just are the probiotics able to get through the hydrochloric acid of the stomach?
There's a number of myths out there associated with probiotics. One of the biggest myths is the notion that freeze-dried and alive and viable are all kind of the same thing. Freeze-dried is a way that a scientist stores something in a lab freezer so they can come back to it. Another myth that is related to that freeze-drying issue is the idea that you must somehow protect a probiotic microbe from the glandular portion of the gut. And that is true if it's a freeze-dried desiccated powder. It's very fragile and vulnerable in that form. And so you'll see probiotics that have enteric coatings to try to get them past there. A healthy cell with an intact cell wall, especially living in a clump with other probiotic bugs stuck to it as they do, handles that period very, very easily. One of the first drafting gates that we use and that every company uses when preparing to select a microbe for commercial use is selecting it for acid tolerance, and then also bile tolerance, because it's got to get past the bile duct. Antibiotic resistance. There's a few basic drafting gates, and getting it past the stomach is actually real easy if it's alive and fresh.
Oh, good question. Any other questions? All right. Okay. So where to for you now? Where's BioBrew going from here?
Well, we have a product development pathway. There's other blends of lactobacilli that we intend to commercialize that we've got shelf life data on now. There are other microbial groups that kind of belong out there in the market, that the bifidobacteria I mentioned.
Tell me the difference. So this was your first one. You said it was quite a simple one. I assume when you say simple in terms of the easy first cab off the rank to get done. These other ones that you're looking to do, are they more complex? Are they rarer? What?
No, but by simple I mean that the product really just is what it is. It's just live lactobacilli and the metabolites they make. Each one of the products that we'll commercialize next are just different blends. So very similar looking, reasonably similar tasting, just a different group in there. What I find I do, because I have access to all of my animal nutrition ones too, is I kind of chop and change, and I don't know, I just get in the mood for a different one. And I think that there's some benefit to changing your probiotic blend, but there are
And
other...
could you not combine a bunch of them in one bottle? So you've got 4 different types, you just pour it into one? Or?
Yeah, but you would end up with yet a different ecology. Each one of
Right.
these groups kind of has their own character, and that's another one of the myths, that more is better, and so you'll get these probiotics with 50 strains on them, and that ignores the reality of biology, and that is that functional groups are what really works, microbial consortia, and so each one of our products is a microbial group of its own style.
Right, okay.
And you would end up with sort of a different identity. But there are other microbial groups, bifidobacteria being the first one, but there are others that will have their own characteristics. It may not be quite as commercially convenient as that one. It might be a refrigerated product. It might have a shorter shelf life, what have you. But people need access to those as well.
Excellent. And so that's your next thing, is getting the first thing you're doing now is getting this out more widely, and then looking at adding those extra ones.
Yeah, we have a commercial focus, which is the development of our retail channels here in New Zealand, and we have an R&D focus, which is transferring more of our blends that we have data on into the human market and developing a couple of new ones.
Perfect.
So kind of tandem plans.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it. We don't have any final questions. No. Okay. So if you could give us give Andre a hand. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank you once more for coming out tonight. I know it was a bit wet tonight. We were all going, I hope people turn up, and everybody did. So that's wonderful. Really pleased to have you here.